Let's go. We're waiting. I'll go ahead and play it. I'm going to play it for him.
Yeah, play it.
Oh, wait. Let's get the sound going. There we go.
All right, listen, Speed. Listen to the video.
I read something about that weeks ago at most.
Yeah, so
I think there was.
Yeah, so so to me, I think this is one of the most significant steps forward in prebiotic chemistry, to be certain, and it is one of those things that is blatantly obvious in retrospect. Why wouldn't anybody over the course of 60 or 70 years actually try intermingling the two types of chemistries? So great, great accomplishment. But I would say my critique of that work is the same as the critique of the RNA building blocks assembling into RNA polymers on clay surfaces. Because when you look at the details of those experiments, again, it's a highly contrived laboratory protocol that that simply would not be relevant to the conditions of the early Earth. Off the top of my head, I can't give you the details. I actually wrote a couple of blog articles that are on our website where I go into the specifics of the reaction sequence and why you're looking at, again, not mechanisms, but procedures and protocols in the laboratory that are highly contrived, highly controlled, that would not translate to the conditions of the early Earth. And in fact, also discussed this in my book, Creating Life in the Lab. And so to me, what is done with the Southern reaction is, in principle, showing that the chemistry you need to make ribonucleotides does exist. That's an important accomplishment. But where the failure is, if you want to call it failure, is that that chemistry doesn't translate to the conditions of the early Earth, and it doesn't have, in other words, geochemical relevance. That would be my criticism of it. And what is separating the two, the geochemical relevance from what's going on in the laboratory, is essentially, again, intelligent agency. It's intelligent agency in the laboratory that is rigging the system in such a way that the chemistry is productive and efficient. And that kind of jimmy rigging would never happen on the early Earth apart from intelligent agency. So that would, again, be my assessment of that work. But again, I don't want to diminish the significance of that work or the respect that I have for the scientists that are doing that work. And I have had a chance to hang out with Origin of Life researchers on numerous occasions, and love hanging out with them. They're some of the most fun people in the world to hang out with, some of the most fun scientists to hang out with. They're very creative, very inventive, and in some respects, that actually is the problem, is that they're so creative and so inventive that it's essentially, again, intelligent agency that is being infused into their experimental work.
And the first argument that I heard against them was that they created the environment of the prebiotic Earth. They removed all the oxygen, so everything's inside of airtight test tubes, and so they have to simulate this or to simulate that, these type of environments. And so they do. They get the temperatures right, they get the chemical mixes right, according to the first hypothesis. And then somebody comes up with an idea that, hey, maybe it's not like this, it's like this. So then they go from Miller-Urey's original experiment to the subsequent one, Volcano in a Bottle, which ultimately produced like 22 amino acids in that experiment. But the fact that it's involving test tubes, and eliminating oxygen on purpose, well, that was people eliminating the oxygen. So you have to have science. Come on, people have to follow whatever prompts they can. If they don't suspect that there was, or if they understand that there would be no oxygen in their atmosphere, then of course they're going to have to remove the oxygen in order to replicate. That doesn't mean that they're intelligent designers on their own.
But and to build off of your point,
I'll give you just a really quick rejoinder. So sorry, Buzz. Just to try to get through as many questions as we can.
I probably have about 40 questions or so here.
Okay. Well, I'll burn through what I can, and we'll.
Yeah, we'll try to go fast. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Stupid Whore Energy says all the researchers do is to set up the experimental conditions to mirror the kinds of situations theorized to have it made possible. You don't think that telescopes actually cause galaxies to appear? I think you kind of just covered a lot of that information, so I don't think we need to go back through that again.
Let me respond real quickly, because I'm sympathetic to the point, and this is also a point that Aaron made. And I'm not saying, of course, researchers have to set up the experimental apparatus to do the experiment. I'm not objecting to that. But what I'm saying is that they are inserting themselves into the experimental design unwittingly. So, for example, in this synthesis of ribonucleotides, one of the steps requires irradiating the system with UV radiation. Okay, but if you irradiate the system with UV radiation at the other steps, it essentially will shut down the chemistry. It'll frustrate the chemistry. So you've got to irradiate it only at a single step. That creates this highly contrived artificial situation. And then you also have to ask the question, is the energy output of the UV radiation and the wavelength of the UV radiation typical of what you would have seen on the early Earth? And the answer is no. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. Is it's the intelligent agency that is making the decision to irradiate a particular step using a particular UV source in order to affect the outcome that is unrealistic for any kind of scenario on the early Earth.
Yeah, and I can't speak to that because it's not the kind of research that I do. I mean, I'm vaguely interested in abiogenesis, but I focus on evolution, and I don't
Yeah, because you got nothing.
Evolution or what have you. I mean, so I don't want to comment on other people's work.
Yeah, nothing. There you go.
Joke, Aaron,
What a
stupid
joke.
trash clown moron he is. All right. Speed, you know what? Come on, dude. Seriously, this is embarrassing at this point. You come in here, you come into my chat, you make a bunch of noise about how we always got it wrong. Smokey's getting temperamental about it, bro. You need to come in here and actually say something about it other than just keep telling us we're wrong in chat. We need to hear some actual evidence or argumentation here.
This is the third time he's called me out, so come on in. I'm not backing down. So let's go.
There we go.
Let's go, dude. I'm here.
Trinity Solution said that maybe he had a question for Speed. Did you want to throw something out there, sir?
Yeah. Tony, do you have a PhD or in
No, pharmaceutical chemistry.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Well, the argument I normally lead with is the argument from design, the argument from the origin of information, pretty much what Fuzz Rana was talking about.
Right.
The objection that I get 9 times out of 10 is, well, first of all, the argument that I make is that the only causal agent that's known to produce the effect of information is an intelligent agent.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, the pushback I get 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, is genetic mutations. Okay, you have genetic mutations that are able to they mutate, and now they're able to code for a different protein, which adds functionality to the organism. And in essence, what you have there is information being created by a non-intelligent source. Now, the way I answer that, and I'm just putting it to you because you may have a better answer than I do, but the way I respond is, look, there's a difference between a functional gene mutating and an information coming from that's able to give functionality to the organism, and the genome itself coming into existence or being given rise to by nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, even if the gene was, mutated, how did the gene get there in the first place? Craig Venter did a similar experiment with that where he manipulated a pre-existing genome. And then all he did was just rearrange a few bases and sugars, and then he inserted it into another cell membrane. So it was just a rearranging of pre-existing parts. And, he hyped up the media like I created life in the lab. And yeah, it was nothing of the sort.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, saying that it mutated, okay, great. But that still wouldn't answer how the gene got there and the original information in the first place. But I agree.
So I'm on the right track then. That's the correct response to that pushback.
And it also has to mimic early Earth conditions, which none of these experiments do. They're highly flawed. And that was just one example that Fuzz gave was, the UV radiation, where it was used in certain steps of the experiment, and it has to be executed at a precise time or else the chemistry will fail. Mm-hmm. So, and there's a lot of problems like that. That was just one.
Oh, yeah, that's just one. There's tons of chicken and egg problems.
Yeah.
Where you have things that have to happen simultaneously, and that's just on the verge of possibility.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I will often mention is that the conditions they set up in the laboratory always they assume that they're the conditions on prebiotic Earth, where all this stuff is happening in the presence of reducing gases.
Actually, can I just stop that a little bit? In fact, in some instances, it's anti-prebiotic Earth, as we know conditions of prebiotic Earth, these are the opposite of not the conditions that we know of prebiotic Earth would have had. So they're even going outside assumption. They're even going into the realm of, even though we know it wasn't like this, let's still do it this way.
Yeah, I would agree. It's highly manipulated.
Yeah. How about the atmosphere? The early Earth atmosphere, supposedly being comprised of all reducing gases.
Right. Yeah.
Is there any validity? I mean, I heard Charles Thaxton.
Yeah.
I heard him say that the only reason they assume that is because their simulation experiments don't work in the presence of oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Here's the simple fact that naturalism, that science, as far as I can tell, is essentially proven, but that naturalists will never seem to give up on.
Right.
Life is, without a divine agent, absolutely, fundamentally, undeniably, logically impossible. On prebiotic Earth.
Yeah.
No way around it.
So what they will do to get around it is to manipulate things and hand select molecules and purify things and do all this pre-prepared stuff just to get it to work. And then they'll say, oh, look, it succeeded. Yeah, well, because you forced it.
A bunch of divine agents got involved.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, they succeed in showing that intelligence can get life started, but that's what we're saying. I mean, tell us something we don't know.
Well,
right?
Actually, we can't get life started. I mean, we can maybe get some of the basic of essential building blocks together. But we're engaging in nothing close to a naturalistic paradigm in order to manifest that at all.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really all they've done is prove that this can't be done without some sort of super powerful intelligent agent. That's all they've done.
Yeah. Exactly. Immutable was here. Yeah, if Immutable wanted to come back, I mean, same thing.
Anyone's welcome to come in, guys. Again, the link is in the description. Just click on it. You guys can come into back studio. I'll let you in. Anyone that wants to talk about this.
And I like when Fuzz was saying he wasn't objecting to the chemists setting up the experiment and using sterile test tubes and all. That's fine, right? So, I think that's not where the flaw is. The flaw is where you have an intelligent agent interfering, and just. Inserting themselves into these types of experiments and using the purified molecules and all these protocols that just have no relevance to the earlier.
Yeah, the one individual Fuzz was referencing was Clemens Richard.
Yeah.
I read his actual piece.
And he admits intelligent manipulations.
Yeah, he says, we do our best to perform experiments that we believe reenact possible steps of prebiotic evolution. But we know that we need to intervene manually to obtain meaningful results. Simply mixing chemicals and watching for a living system to appear from the broth seems unreasonable to me. This approach has never worked, and it's not expected to work, at least not if one is limited to the lifetime of a human, let alone the duration of a funding period or a PhD thesis. So he's saying not only is it non-intuitive, but it's not expected to work.
Right.
Well, that's essentially when I think it's a little ridiculous when the atheists point to the what is it, the Mueller experiment, Tony? I always
it was the 53 Miller-Urey experiment.
Right. So basically they just made lifeless tar. That's really all they did. And that's because of the chirality problem. All of these amino acids, in order for them to be usable, have to be left-handed. You don't, even if you get just a regular random manifestation of amino acids, like in that experiment, they're going to be a mix of left-handed and right-handed. It's going to be completely unusable for any type of assemblage of any type of complex protein. So again, it's another one of these unsolvable problems in a naturalistic paradigm, yet they still cling to some sort of faith it might be true.
Yeah. I mean, even a modest size protein, like 150 amino acids long, to get all 150 amino acids to be all left-handed, you're talking about one chance in 10 to the 64.
Yep. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's 10 to the 60th elementary elementary particles.
And that has to happen so many other times. And then also all of those also have to also assemble into protein molecules. And then they have to be utilized by DNA, which has to, I don't know, somehow randomly manifest somewhere with all of its complex coding and information and library of language. There is no there's no rational way through this in a naturalistic perspective. It just doesn't work.
Well, that's why the RNA world hypothesis is the big thing.
That's another big
origin of life research.
Yeah, that's a giant disaster for them too, as much as they don't realize.
Oh, absolutely.
And
even encoding is a disaster for them. Everything new they discover is a disaster for them.
Right, and it never leads to anything.
Yeah, for every problem they solve, they just find 10 more.
It's always some sort of stalemate chemistry. That's what I call it.
That's a good term. I like that.
Yeah. They just can't do anything with these molecules.
All right, excellent. Tony, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, where can I find you, man? I'll definitely subscribe to you. I can't see your name. What is it?
It's a Trinity Solution, yeah.
Trinity Solution, right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and he comments on my channel a lot too. I think Trinity. I've seen you leave a few comments and stuff. So definitely find him and check him out for sure.
Right. And Tony, you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I got no videos up right now, but I will. I'm gonna get some stuff going.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thanks, brother.
Beautiful. Nice having you, Trinity. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, and Tony, by the way, if you want to upload some stuff onto your channel from stuff we've done here, feel free. Okay. Come on in, clip stuff. All my brothers and sisters, any of the stuff on my channel, you guys want to use it, clip it, upload it, do it. Go for it.
Yeah, that guy was great though, man. He would be good with Speed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Well, and Speed just doesn't want to seem to debate anyone on my side. He'll go give Maddox all sorts of trouble all day long, but I don't know. Smokey's not getting much love from the atheists these days.